Every single person that is building a personal brand or a brand, doesn't matter, a business needs to hear this conversation. And I mean, every single one. So if you have a named framework, a signature system, a methodology, a brand name that you have been building, and you have never taken any of the steps to actually protect it, you are one Google search away from someone else owning what you have built. My guest today is Jennifer Weber, trademark attorney, IP protection specialist, business strategist, and consultant, and someone who has spent over 20 years helping business owners protect what they have worked incredibly hard for. But what I love about Jennifer is that she has not stayed in just one lane. She has evolved her own brand in a really powerful way, and she is going to share that story with us today. And if you think that just because AI helped you create something, it is automatically yours and it is protected, stay tuned because Jennifer is about to completely bust that wide open. I always kick off with every episode the same way. I ask my guests for one secret about building a personal brand that nobody in the world is saying out loud publicly. Jennifer's answer, you're going to want to hear it. So let's get into it. You're listening to the Secret Marketing Diary of Personal Brands, where being the face of your business gets to be powerful, profitable, and unfiltered. Hey, Jennifer. Welcome. I am so excited that you are on today's episode. So you and I met a few years back, and I know that for the people listening right now, that they have no idea how much they're going to need what you're actually going to share. So before I jump into it, I always love to start my guests with the same question. If there was one secret about building and protecting a personal brand that most experts, coaches, artists, gurus are not talking about, what would yours be?
I love that question. Really what came to mind, and this is what I talk about a lot, is just remember who you are and that you're in charge because
Mhm.
there is so much effort out there. There are a lot of tools that work great, but if you don't know what works for you, or you're feeling like you need to do all the things, which I have done, you know, it gets overwhelming and you don't feel like you've really made progress. And so there is definitely listening to experts about getting things accomplished. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, work on knowing yourself so you're part of your brand, it really fits you rather than trying something on that's not a good fit.
100%. It has to feel aligned. That's
Yes.
I tell my clients this all the time. I love that. So, I know you have spent over 20 years in the space of working with business owners on IP protection.
Mhm.
And since you have definitely evolved and expanded your business, but I want to start with your own story because I think it's going to set the stage for everything that we're going to talk about. So, what pulled you into this work and what have you seen change most dramatically over the years in terms of what business owners actually need to protect?
Okay. Well, my why of becoming a lawyer
Mhm.
was really about property rights and intellectual property rights. So, which we will get into, but sort of that trademark, copyright, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Um, when the internet was new, which is really hilarious to say, but
You just aged us,
well,
Jen.
just me. You should say I don't know what you're
Talking
talking about.
about I remember that.
I'm totally fine with aging myself on this one, but it was really the
I
case,
love
like,
it.
when I graduated law school, Google just launched, right?
Yeah,
And
I know.
so no one knew what the online business space was gonna be like, and so for
Mhm.
me, that was so interesting, and so you can hear that I'm in my head about being a lawyer, and yes, I get to really serve people, but that conversation in that legal space and getting to do work where there's, new law. And
Yeah.
so that's what I got to do. And I think, looking back now, it's been longer since I've switched to consulting. So it's, we're
Mhm.
coming up on even more than 20 years.
Yeah.
Um, the next decade here. But what's really interesting now about that is AI, of course, and how
Mhm.
that's affecting us, but I can look back and see, you know, Google is using AI. It's that, and we're training it with our emails and things, and so
Right.
really watching how that's grown from when that started, I think is just fascinating, and so I just think that there's just more noise and more volume
Mhm.
in protecting yourself, and so it can feel really daunting because it used to be not online, which no one
Right.
can imagine, right? Like
And there's so many, like, it just feels like now, and I know we'll get into this in a few minutes, but there's so many new things that you have to pay attention to.
Yeah.
And I feel like loopholes and, yeah, it's just a lot.
And just
100%.
the power of things looking official when it's not official. I was just
Right.
I have to when I talk about certain things, that it's always this list of go
Mhm.
here and not anywhere else because you do not have to pay to get this thing or whatever
Yeah.
that is. So, yeah, it's pretty.
Right. So, I know you haven't just stayed in the IP world, right? And you've built something really different with, for example, Flock.
Yeah.
So tell us, and I love the name of this. So when you were inside of our mastermind group doing a training and we were talking about it, because I remember you sharing like the brand and, protecting your IP and all of that. And you mentioned Flock. So tell us about Flock and what was the catalyst that pushed you into this direction?
So, it's pretty funny that as a trademark attorney, I'm really interested in coming up with names and brands, and it's not something I would do for my clients. They would come to me with, their names, but I'm pretty good at it. And because it delights me. I'm not
Mhm.
trying to come up with a brand name. That is not my skill set. But for me, this felt very on brand. And so transitioning from lawyer to consultant and educator, that's been a years long process. And so talking about doing it my way,
Yeah.
right, is that Flock is a co-working group.
Mhm.
And it is simply once a week. It's a membership to come in uh, for 90 minutes once a week and work on your things. And I facilitate it. So it's always me. It's not, there are other great opportunities out there to do co working, but this is just my small group. I'm not trying to run it 24 hours or anything. And then
Right.
I'll run it sort of Pomodoro style. So it's every 20 minutes and then we'll take a few minutes and we'll get back to it. And it's been, I guess we're coming up on a year and a half of this,
Fine.
and it's just really fun, and I can't tell you the origin of the name at this point. It's just I've had so many different ideas, and I'm going through, like, I'm a paper person and a digital person, so I'm doing this archive and pulling things up, and you can really see a consistent theme about the things I talk about and what I
Mhm.
wanna do and sort of the naming conventions and stuff. But I really like Flock because it is, coming together. Actually, I do remember why now. So I started something called, I never launched it, but something called a duck challenge. And it's
Oh,
sort of like, where even are my ducks?
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I seem to also have a goose, like, you know, like, and so the idea behind that challenge, which I think I will be doing here soon, is being a business owner, being an employee, whatever. There's just so much to do. There's
Mhm.
so many things, and I sort of call it the insane to do list. When you're like, well, yes, I am marketing and sales and the producer of the content and all the things.
Yes.
And a lot of things can fall by the wayside. And so the duck challenge was the idea is to just at the very least identify your ducks. you know, maybe we can start corralling them into one place. And so,
And get your
um,
ducks in a row.
yeah, they don't even have. We're just like in the same area,
Yeah.
just to get started. So I'm very much, I don't wanna, this stuff is hard. Being a business owner is hard, and
Yeah.
even with the hugest support system in the world, it can feel very lonely, because if you're a solopreneur and you're making all the decisions, maybe
Mhm.
people don't get it, that kind of thing. So, combination of the reality of being a business owner and my weird sense of humor that I really like the duck challenge, it's a 5-day thing and help you, you get to pick your ducks, so it's not being told what to do.
Yeah.
So Flock was born
I
out of
love
that.
that. I
And
love
so
it.
I think I've told you before, but so I like to say, "Hey, Flockers," it
Yes.
just
It's so fun, and it makes you know what? Honestly, like, it's silly, but it makes it fun because,
Yeah.
if you have, like, this insane list, you're gonna procrastinate and not wanna get to it, but you're making it fun, so I love that.
It's fun and it's cameras on, audio off, and then there's a little bit of time to chat and connect, so
Yeah.
it's no anytime I heard about a lot of different groups and things, the word accountability freaked me out because like, would I be in trouble? And it's like, "No.
Right.
You're going in to do what you wanna do." I've had people come in who work in an office, so this isn't all people that are
Mhm.
self-employed, but they'll come in
Yeah,
and say, "Okay, I have been putting off this spreadsheet for so long, and I'm saving it for today. I saved it for today to do it today."
that's
And
cool.
I have found for myself that, I will finish that 90-minute session, so it's 3 20-minute sprints, and the group kinda decides if there's a little longer break or if we just go straight into the next one.
Mhm.
Um that there's some momentum after that, and I'll keep working on some things. But,
Yeah.
I think Flock as a brand is definitely me. It's an expression of me and how I want people to feel in my space, that it's like, "This is hard, let's get something done." And also, there's times where people come back and go, "Well, I got a phone call, so nothing happened there," you know?
Right,
Like,
right.
that's also just real life, so
Yeah. Okay. I love it. I love that. So, okay, let's say you're listening right now and maybe thinking, I'm a coach, I'm a consultant, I'm a service provider. This does not really apply to me. Why does it actually apply to them? Like, what is actually at risk if, as a business owner, you don't take the steps to protect what you've built, even something as flock, right? So, I want to ask specifically about personal brands because so many people I know that are listening have named frameworks, proprietary systems. That's a tongue
Mhm.
twister for me.
Yeah.
Methodologies, signature programs, and they have been using these names publicly for years. So how vulnerable are people right now that have never formalized any sort of protection with what they've created?
So, one thing about me is I never like to scare anyone straight about
Mhm.
any of this, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just a real conversation and it can
Yeah.
be a hard one sometimes. So, just real quickly to put this in for what I'm talking about. Intellectual property is copyrights, trademarks, trade secrets and patents. And
Mhm.
so I spend time in the space of copyright and trademark. That's what I do. And all of those folks that you said, if they were listening, that's the most that affects them is the copyright and the trademarks. So for the group names and the company names and anything like that, that would be a trademark.
Mhm.
And there are state and federal trademarks, but I'm going to talk about the federal level of trademarks here. And what's important about it, so we'll harken back to pre-Google, right?
Yeah.
When the trademark law was like, okay, I'm here in Montana and I open a restaurant called Flock, let's say, and you're in Florida and open a restaurant called Flock. Are people going to be confused that we're the same? Are we the
Mhm.
same company? Are we connected? And so now in the modern day with the internet, it used to be geographically based and be like, well, I'm not going to Florida anytime soon to open up my restaurant, so there's not going to be any confusion. And
Right.
now you just go online and the whole world is there, right?
Right.
So we would be able to coexist in that situation. But nowadays, there's just, as we were talking about, there's so many different concerns out there. And so one is you want to make sure that, stealing your idea is not a thing. You can't steal an idea, but you don't want someone to use your brand names. You've
Mhm.
built up so much credibility with that.
Mhm.
And your methodologies and things like that. So you don't want someone to come out with the same name. So a trademark registration gives you the power to help enforce that. You do have trademark rights right away just from using it. And so these are different paths that you need to think about. And of course, it's a very serious, normal thing to be like, I don't have the budget, right?
Right.
This is a thing. But I would say that the reason I went to law school to study this and why I love it so much is to remind people, I went to law school to study this. People don't know about this stuff, right? This is just
Right.
amazing. So this is really how my education piece started going because just even understanding the difference between these things and starting to think about timelines and you making the business decision of when you want to enforce some of these things. So I think though, so the trademark piece is important, especially, long view. If you ever want to sort of franchise or do
Mhm.
a certification program as a coach and certify other
Right.
people, you really want to make sure all your IP is really tight and protected. So people with the same trademarks are based on goods and services. So,
Mhm.
if I had Flock as a restaurant and someone else had Flock as a surfing school, that's a weird one, but,
I mean, I can picture a duck on a surfboard. I
right?
don't
The consumer is not gonna be confused that that's the same company, that my
Right.
restaurant has branched out to dog surfing, which would
Right.
be amazing. Why not? So there's a lot to really understand what your trademarks are and
Mhm.
making sure that they're different from other people. You have a duty to, as a trademark owner, to protect it. You don't want things to, so that's a longer conversation. And then also for all those folks, what's really important and less expensive, which is nice, is to protect your written works,
Mhm.
your blogs, your videos, any content that you're providing can be protected by copyright.
Mhm.
And that is also a decision-making process of what you wanna protect, what's
Mhm.
worth your time, you know, your budget. There are some strategies to doing that, and I will actually be having a class coming up on
Oh,
copyright
cool.
registration,
Okay.
because it is once you get the hang of it, I think
Mhm.
it's really doable, and it's a more straightforward thing on how to, protect your works, because when you're seeing people printing out your guides and then changing a few things
Mhm.
and using it at your own, you wanna be able to protect yourself. If you have
Yeah.
whole methodologies, you wanna be able to protect yourself and say that's infringement. And so I've had a lot of, sort of basic classes, sort of trademark essentials, copyright essentials for people to get the gist of
Mhm.
what they are, and then different ones for, "Okay, let's build a system and, learn how to register this myself."
Yeah.
Both trademarks and copyrights you can file for on your own, or you can hire attorneys, to do that, depending on time, budget, and you're willing, like, "I wanna hand this off," totally normal, or, "Actually, I think I wanna do this in-house."
With both of those, whether it's trademarks or copyright,
Mhm.
where do you see that, people like myself, for example, a consultant or a professional service provider, where do you see that they're making mistakes in how they're going about this? Or where can we make a mistake?
Yeah, I think, the biggest thing, and I know we'll talk about AI more here, but,
Mhm.
if you are using AI in any of your content creation,
Mhm.
you cannot protect it by copyright, and it's a very huge thing, so you gotta
That
be
is a
very
huge thing. Yeah.
clear on, so I have, visions for doing whole courses, right? And
Mhm.
then and they're pretty big, and so I've done pieces that have popped off and become their own product and thing, and I've sat down at the desk, and I've written it all out, and I made the guide in Canva, looks terrible, I gotta redo it. But, I followed, so I've written all the things, I've used images that I'm allowed to use, with licenses or, royalty free kind of stuff, and I've done all that. So while there's a lot of conversation around AI, and, uh the most important thing for copyright, the law has changed because of
Mhm.
AI. Copyright law has been around since the founding fathers of this country, and one of
Mhm.
the first acts of Congress was about copyright. So it's long established. And so for
Mhm.
that language to change, it was specifically for AI that anything created to be protected by copyright now has to be made by a human.
Mm.
And that has really changed what that
Yeah.
means. And so if you are someone let's say you're a coach and you're creating a workbook that you're gonna
Mhm.
publish through Amazon KDP,
Mhm.
for example, you're gonna upload that and print it out. You're gonna get asked if there's AI involved and how
Mhm.
much. And I'm hearing that some categories of things that sort of not easier in the sense of it still takes work, but people making puzzle books and those kinds of things to sell, a lot of people will use AI to create the puzzles or the drawings and things like that. So those are getting rejected more and more often because of the AI use. So if you use AI in your work, it
Mhm.
cannot be protected by copyright. And that is the thing I don't know if everyone really understands.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't think so. I mean, you heard it inside of my mastermind group. Everyone was like, "Oh," you know?
mhm,
What about, like, let's say you write a piece of copy, it could be an article or a blog post or something like that, but then you write it, and
mhm.
actually, I'm gonna give you a better example.
Okay.
What about this is a real example. What about I do a video, right? My
Mhm.
video is about 20, 30 minutes long, maybe even an hour. It's a training. And I take that transcription of that video and I put it into an AI tool to rewrite my transcript into an article or into a training like PDF or something. Are those things protected or no? Because I had AI rewrite it, even though it was originally my content.
It's your content. So, I'm starting to smile because I thought I could get through an interview without saying, "It depends." Nice try. Nice try, Jen. Well, 0 for, So, and the reason it depends is, I have a great tool that I like to use that I can just it's on my phone, I open it up and I can just talk and it captures it beautifully.
Mhm.
There's all the bells and whistles in there that could be like, "Would you like me to turn this into a grocery list or a bulleted list or a letter or a thing?" And so it's gonna edit and do a lot of stuff. And so in that context, what's the difference of me editing it myself and changing it
Mhm.
versus is it adding words? I think it's a really tough question,
Mm.
and so I have to sort of leave it with depends without looking at things because
Yeah.
one key thing though that if you've joined a meeting and you're seeing people having their transcribers on there,
Mhm.
to take notes. I was
Mhm.
just on a meeting for a class, and they denied all those. They said, "We will be
Mhm.
sending out our own notes and doing
Yeah.
that in the future." But the other thing I'm paying attention to is for course creators and people to have in their contracts that their students will not upload their materials into any AI entries,
Mm.
because you are training those models, and so you are taking copyrighted material and putting it into Claude, ChatGPT, whichever,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
using, and then that's training the model, and so your stuff is no longer it's just out there.
Right.
And
Wow. Yeah,
yeah,
I didn't even consider that, but so
yeah,
true.
and so that's really this big change we've seen about you can't you can put all the bells and whistles on your course, for example, and, make it non-downloadable and do different things. But someone
Mhm.
out there has figured out a tool, and there's always going to be a certain level of people that are just going to do what they want to do.
Right.
But I think that if so some of this is about communication and clarity about what's allowed with your stuff and
Mhm.
building that relationship. And I think at some point, I mean, there's AI in everything that I think it's almost lost its meaning in a way. It's like, here's your coffee now with AI. I'm like, why? You know? But it's like, does it really add anything? And I think it can be a very useful tool. I do not use
Mhm.
it for writing. I
Mhm.
do use it I have like 10 years of Trello boards that way in my hand. So I screenshotted them and uploaded them, and I said, "Make me a to-do list out of every board I've ever had," and that was fantastic. It's insane, but it's
Yeah.
like, but here's, all the things, and so I think the thing about AI is if you are gonna use it, then be deliberate about it and really
Mhm.
understand that it's a tool. I
Mhm.
think we can all tell when something's written by AI at this point.
Mhm.
There's a certain cadence, there's a certain thing.
Right.
Um, I think there are certain generations that I'm seeing my friends, some are artists. If
Mhm.
your event poster is made with AI, they will not go.
Mm. Wow.
You know, there's a real I mean, there are the environmental impacts.
Yeah.
That's an entirely huge
Energy.
conversation and thing,
Mhm.
about this, but I would also say that all of our email is doing has an environmental impact. There's so many we just all these data centers for all the
Right.
things that we do for a modern life. So it's just looking at what you're offering and then getting really clear, and so that's when it gets into terms and conditions and things, and does anyone read them?
No.
You know, people don't wanna read them, and so it's like, how are you gonna communicate all this? I was just teaching a copyright to a group of artists, and, we were talking about protecting works, and he's like, "I'm not gonna read the terms," and I said, "I can't help you." Like, you need to
You have to read it.
at some point as a business owner, you're gonna have to read these things or have someone
Yeah.
read it for you to be like, "Hey, is this picture I wanna use, can I really use it in a commercial way?" You know?
Right.
You're gonna have to you don't get to be ignorance is bliss on these things, so it's a
Yeah.
really complex area.
It is. There's like it just feel sounds and it feels like there's like so much gray area, right?
Yes.
What about AI images? Like an image of myself that I put into AI, or somebody takes my image of myself and puts it into AI to use for something. Like I know that that's happened a lot. Are you protected there? Like, can I go after someone for using a picture of me and then putting it into AI and using that to promote or whatever?
So I think there's a couple of different levels in there that, this is really fun because it really applies to everyone, and I just talked
Yeah.
about this a couple weeks ago with those artists, but so, copyright attaches right when you so if we both pulled up our phones and took a photo, selfies or whatever,
Mhm.
I have a copyright in that image that I just took. It doesn't have to be a great picture, you know, even the picture, my thumb's on it and I took it and I was like, "Oh," and it's sort of artistic on accident,
Right.
Still, I have the copyright in that photo because I pushed the button, right? Same with you.
Mhm.
So when copyright infringement includes literally making a copy.
Okay.
So that's one thing. So using your photo, there's
Mhm.
there's 2 issues there. If you had taken the photo and they used it, that's
Mhm.
copyright infringement.
Okay.
And let's say it is a photo of you, that's using your image and likeness.
Mhm.
Okay, and maybe they're selling something that you didn't agree to sell. So that's a
Mhm.
real problem. Now they're using your name, your brand to sell something that you don't approve of
Yeah.
with that image. So that's why it's not an it depends, but it's like, and here's more
Right.
ways to think about it, right? Like so um and then, whether you go and enforce that and go after someone, it is really, I always call this a business decision. But it's very painful as far as how do you get people to stop?
Right.
Yes, there are legal tools to do that, but is there any money at the other end? Are
Mhm.
they judgment proof? That kind of thing. Does it feel like you're playing whack-a-mole with all of these people? So I do feel that part of it is really about speaking up about these things and how it
Mhm.
affects your business in a way that's well, my style is to be educational and not scare you or hit
Right.
anyone over the head with stuff, but, like, let's talk about this. This is what it really means. This is the impact that it's having on business people if you're doing that. And,
Mhm.
I don't know if you noticed, I stopped myself. I was like, "But we have to press the button ourselves
Yeah.
to own the
Yeah.
copyright." And so there's a famous case which, has resulted in this really fantastic photo, but a professional photographer was out and, shooting photos, and a monkey got a hold of his camera and took a selfie. So the monkey took a picture, and it's fantastic, and I will have to find this and put this on my website because the image is just great. His big teeth, looks like he's smiling. It's just this great photo, and that became a legal case
Really?
of who owns the photograph, right? Because you wanna make money on that photograph. Well, that is in part why the law changed because, in my opinion, I done research on this, but there's a whole series of cases that it settled and went away and then it came back. But they had to rule that that monkey does not own a copyright. It has to be made by a human.
Mhm.
And so it's very much, so if you say, "Hey," whatever tool you're using, I'm hosting a class for consultants on how to register a copyright," which would be just so offensive if I did that,
Yeah.
and it made up a poster, right? Okay, I could use it, but I can't protect that image. There's
Right.
no anyone else could just go copy that and use that same image, or AI would just generate one.
Mhm.
I'm here in Montana, and you're seeing a lot of shares that, state fairs are coming up, that kind of thing, summer fests, all those different kinds of outdoor events. And there's people are putting together of collages, and those posters all look the same because they're
Mm.
all using it. There's
Well,
not,
you see.
it's not differentiating. It's not on brand. It just looks, the phrase is AI slop. It just looks all
Right.
the same. And so you're not standing out in a market to anyone. And then
Yeah.
there's a real reaction from some people that if you're using AI, we will just not go.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's I haven't heard that, but that is really interesting too. And honestly, like, it makes sense, especially if you are very conscious about the environment,
Mhm.
as well. So, okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of entry points into the topic
Yeah.
of AI, and, I did not use it for the longest time, just, for the copyright brain was like, yeah,
Right. Yeah.
but it has been a useful tool for organizing and
Mhm.
sort of, some ideation about some ideas and just,
Right.
aggregating some things, but, it's not thinking for you. It's just
Mhm.
it's taking whatever you give it and putting it in some semblance of order, and it might feel like you're chatting with someone, but you're
Right.
really not.
Yeah.
The funniest thing I heard is someone is like it really like, they can get very, like it's not angry isn't the word, but they will just be like, "You're not doing this right." They get very direct with this. It's just like a very soft-spoken person, and they're like, "No." It's like a good practice. Be like, "You
Stop
got that
that.
wrong. Fix it."
Listen to me.
"That is not what I said."
Oh my gosh. So if someone is listening right now and they have this named framework or signature system or a brand name that they've been building and they have done nothing yet to protect it, what would you say are the very first 3 things that they should start doing, like, right away?
I would, want them to get sort of everything together. I would wanna know when they first started using that methodology and advertising it for
Mhm,
sale, and that's a very specific thing as to trademarks. So, I would wanna know when they first used it,
mhm.
when they created it. So, when you copyright something, it has to be fixed and tangible, so it can't
Yeah.
be an idea or a half-finished manuscript, it has to be done. So, and then you would want to know so a lot of it is sort of facts and data. When were things created? When was
Mhm,
that guide created? When did you come up with the methodology and the brand name? Let's say you have a whole, sort of recorded course made
mhm.
with
Yeah,
materials. When did all that come about? Um, then, with that, you would so the third thing is a really big thing. You would look at copyright protection and trademark protection, and then, see what you wanna do to do about that, and there's a lot of analysis around there, but the copyright, quite frankly, is the bit of the easier piece
yeah.
to move forward on. Trademark, a lot more.
Complex,
Yeah, a
it
lot more
sounds like.
complexity to it. It's
Yeah.
not insurmountable, but there is just this is why I love teaching it. I
Mhm,
used to the reason I started teaching, trademarks to like the small business development centers here in town, or the one, and doing train the trainers is because their clients would say, "Okay, I filed for my LLC or my corporation or whatever business entity. So I'm
mhm.
good, right? I've got my trademark." And it's like, "You do not." That is
That's
a
not the
very,
truth.
very different conversation. Uh,
Yeah,
and so when I can we have different contests or the Downtown Billings Business Association will every couple years has a contest, and if you win, you get retail space and all the support to open your business. here in downtown, and so I've taught classes for them and just these real fundamentals, copyright, trademark, what to think
Mhm.
about, doing all of that. It's pretty important.
There's a lot to think about. This was this was so, so good, and I knew that it would be,
Thanks.
so valuable, and I'm sure that, like, we could probably dig deep into each one of those things, trademark, copyright. We didn't even talk about contracts. Actually, before we
Sure.
close, is there anything specific? Because that's actually a big one now that I think about it. Anything specific regarding contracts, especially when it comes to, coaches and consultants and these coaching groups and, course creators, anything that you would wanna share regarding that?
Definitely have one. I know that's it sounds
Yes.
very, but a lot of people don't.
Mhm.
And you wanna have a contract that, is not generated by AI. If you are a professional if you are a coach in a lot of different industries or certification programs or things, there is probably a resource for you for a template, and I
Yeah.
would say go to those first. Using your friends who's a coach in another state is not gonna help you because that the law is different. So,
Mhm.
you wanna get something for yourself. They do not have to sound like Shakespeare. They can be very modern written in a very modern way.
Yeah.
I was talking to someone, when you really want someone to really see and acknowledge something, you can visually offset it and they have to check a box. So that
Mhm.
could be you will not upload these course materials into AI,
Yeah.
as an example.
Mhm.
You want to when you're hiring and this is contracts sort of both ways. So contracts protect you. So when things fall apart or there's a dispute, whether it's payment or scope of services or the, whatever the dispute is,
Mhm.
uh, a lawyer and the whole legal process looks at that contract and as to define the terms.
Mhm.
That's where you start. If you are hiring a graphic designer and you're paying thousands of dollars for a brand,
Mhm.
I would wanna see in that contract 2 things, that they're not using AI, because we could all just go do that ourselves, right?
Right. Right.
And 2, that you want to so copyright, I own it, right, when I create something. So let's say
Mhm.
instead of a photograph, I've made a painting, and, I want to, I can license it to someone, and they could make T-shirts of it. Right? I
Mhm.
can license the image for something, or I can assign the whole thing to them and then they can monetize it. And that's
Mhm.
very different than selling an artwork to someone. That's a whole different conversation. So what you want in a contract with your graphic designer who's creating your logos and things is that they are assigning the copyright in all the designs to you,
Mhm.
that you own
Yep.
it. Because when you file for copyright registration, anything where you're saying, "Hey, I'm claiming I'm the owner," you have to
Mhm.
actually own it. And
Right.
just someone saying, "Oh, yeah, yeah, totally yours. Of course I made it for you," is not sufficient. So,
Mhm.
again, back to, what I was talking in the beginning is that this is overwhelming, it sounds insane, all these different pieces, but at the end of the day, it's your business and you're the boss, and so a lot of common sense, just take a breath and go, "Okay, I need a contract. What should it say?"
Yeah.
And, you'll be able to protect yourself, but it's the contracts are one piece and intellectual property is another tool to help you.
Yeah. Really important, everyone. I hope you listened closely. I think, we all have a lot of homework to do, and I know you have tons of resources that you do, like these classes. Where is the best place for people to find you and connect with you so that they can learn about any upcoming events that you have? Your website or
I
what's
would
the
say
best
the
place?
website is
Yeah.
the best,
Okay.
place right now. There's the calendar, with the flock, and you'll see another group that I have for working artists. But I love this calendar because you can click on flock and join from the calendar if you want to join
Cool.
the membership. But I will be adding courses and things. Yeah, so I'll be adding them there. I have so much stuff I want to put out, but I'm uh, pacing myself a bit. But it is just so important to learn about it, and whether
Mhm.
it's with me or maybe you've got an industry support somehow that helps you with some of these things. Go look at what those resources are because once there's infringement, or if you've infringed someone else's mark and you didn't know it, the
Mhm.
real physical examples are brick and mortar stores that have to take all the signage down,
Mm,
their letterhead. There can be significant consequences. So you want to make sure that you're clear on what those rights are.
yeah. All
Well,
right,
now I'm
guys.
ending in gloom and doom. So,
No.
come
No,
flock.
but it's like, no, these are things that, we go about our business and we don't
Yeah.
really think about it, or we think about it years down the road, right?
Which
So
is it's so normal. I mean, I talk about this a lot, but I work with 2 kinds of entrepreneurs, and those are the intentional that are going to do everything that they know to do before they open their business, and then the accidental. It's like, "Hey, I
mhm.
started another business," and I have been both. I have been both.
Yeah,
And
same.
then you kinda look up from working in the business and go, "Oh, there is a lot of things that I need to take care of,"
Yeah,
and, so, yeah, creating spaces for that, uh, it's just really normalizing it, and then it's okay to get to it, but the
right,
thing is you've created a lot of really special stuff, and you wanna protect it.
right. So bottom line, go protect it. Not
Yes.
next month,
Yeah.
now.
Start looking into it, a little bit at a time, whatever it is, but, yeah, let's get it protected.
Awesome, Jen. Thank you so much for being on, and, guys, pay attention to the show notes, all the links to find Jennifer on her website and all the upcoming events and classes. You definitely want to pay attention to those. Will be in the show notes. And I will see you guys on the next one. Thanks, Jen.
Thank you so much.
You're listening to the secret marketing diary of personal brands, where being the face of your business gets to be powerful, profitable, and unfiltered.